How's it going, everyone? So we are going to go over this. Make sure I got the chat up. Oh, let's go. We got that chat up. All right. So the power finally came back on. I'm glad it did. It got down to about 5 degrees Celsius inside. It got pretty chilly. So I'm glad it finally came back on. 2 days later, though. 2 days later, power back on. So we are at it again. Do this. Voila. Hopefully everyone can hear me just fine. So yeah, 2 days later, power's back on. Got pretty chilly. Here in Canada, got down to -7 degrees Celsius over the weekend. And yeah, it got pretty chilly inside, about 5 degrees Celsius inside. So I am very glad that the power came back on. So we're going to go over AMD Ryzen 9000G APUs. Absolutely insane for their G series, especially their 8700G. It's an absolute monster to overclock, like absolute monster. It's very efficient and also just very, very powerful for what you can overclock it to. So yeah, AMD Ryzen 9000 GPUs rumored to launch in Q4 for AM5 motherboards. Ryzen 9000G can potentially be the first Microsoft Copilot Plus certified APUs for desktops. And I did go over this before about Microsoft's new Windows and that for their Windows server. And yeah, it's part of it. It's part of the lineup for the Windows server. So that is very good. Yeah, AMD Ryzen AI, of course. AI is taking over the world, so of course it's got AI built into it. All right, so last CES saw AMD unveil its Ryzen 8000G lineups, and I did go over this as well. I go over all the CES lineups of CPUs, not just AMD, but also Intel, and also go over GPUs as well, and motherboards. So yeah, last CES saw AMD unveil its Ryzen 8000D lineup of APUs for AM5, bringing together speedy Zen 4 cores alongside the first RDNA-based graphics engine to desktops. Succeeding their Vega-powered processors, hardware leaker HXL suggests a potential successor and expected for Q4 launch this year. So the end of this year is when it's expected to come out. With the likely designation of Ryzen 9000G, other details regarding the core architecture and silicon have not been detailed, so we'll primarily have to rely on guesswork. And going off of what they've done with the Ryzen 9000 series, you can kind of guess on how the performance is going to be with their 9000G APUs. So Ryzen 8000G APUs are based on AMD's Phoenix Silicon and features Zen 4 cores, while some models down the stack included both Zen 4 and smaller Zen 4C cores. Similarly to the Ryzen 7040 APUs for laptops, AMD equipped these processors with up to 12 RDNA 3-based CUs, compute units, capable of basic 1080p gaming. Basic, and they work pretty good in my opinion. This is thanks to incision of DDR5 support on AM5. Yeah, the perfect. They did. Very glad that they did that. Which is also considered why AMD likely skip porting Rembrandt to AM4 as it was limited to DDR4. Zen 5-based mobile APUs divided into Strix Point for the high end and Kraken Point for the mid range. AMD is expected to reuse the same silicon for the Ryzen 9000G family, giving us an inkling about the specs. Strix Point tops 12 hybrid cores, 4 Zen 5 plus 8 Zen 5C cores. In a dual CCX layout alongside a beefy 16 compute units, compute unit iGPU, Radeon 890M based on RDNA 3.5. Little something here. This is HXL, kind of the writer on this. Tracking point drops this to 8 hybrid cores, 4 Zen 5 plus 4 Zen 5C, while we're still waiting die shots for confirmation. With the die shots, we'll also get the actual size of the die itself. There are people out there, they'll take the picture, break it down, and give us the rough dimensions of the actual die. It suggests that all 8 hybrid cores and Kraken Point share the same 16 megabyte cache pool, single CCX, similar to the AMD's budget Phoenix 2 offerings. We find a Radeon 860M solution on the graphics end, outfitted with 8 RDNA 3.5 base compute units. Nice. Both families have an XDNA 2 NPU capable of dishing 50 tops of AI performance. If our assumptions prove accurate, AMD might be in the running to deliver the first Copilot Plus certified desktop offerings with these chips. As AMD reportedly planned a Strix Point refresh for Gorgon Point, Ryzen AI 400. If you've not gone over the video, I did bring out the leak on Gorgon Point. It seems to be pretty promising. Ryzen AI 400 with a question mark. We're not really sure about that. In 2026, they can leverage surplus Ryzen AI 300 silicon for Ryzen 9000 APUs. While still more than a guess, this is a pretty significant uptick in specifications and thus performance over existing Phoenix APUs on desktops. It's unlikely, however, that we'll see something like Strix Halo ported to AM5 anytime soon, mainly due to its size, design, and cost. Ryzen 9000G is likely among the last Zen 5 offerings, as AMD is expected to march on to Zen 6 in 2026. And again, that's Gorgon Point coming out in 2026 with Zen 6. Also the Medusa lineup. So awesome. Very good. Hopefully there's going to be some more leaks on this later on. We'll have to see about that. And what we can do is go over a few other things because there wasn't exactly a whole lot on that. So we'll just go through some other things here. All right, we can go over a delidded 9950X 3D. So what we're going to do is switch this over to this one. So yeah. So this one here over on Tom's Hardware. PC enthusiast delidded a 9950X 3D using fishing line and a clothes iron, like an action iron for like your actual clothes. Is saving $60 on the right tool for the job worth the nerves? I don't know. Fishing line. I mean, if it worked, I guess, but I mean, ew. I use a vise, but I found a very safe way to use a vise. A PC overclocking enthusiast says that they successfully delidded their AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 3D with just a length of fishing line and a clothes iron. Video cards reported or spotted Redditor user boss asserting that the operation went smoothly and that they saved $60 in the waiting time that ordering thermal grizzly D-lid die mate would have required. They wrote that, boy, was it scary. So there's a cost of shredding nerves to account for it. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, a little scary. It would be a little scary to use that. I mean, the clothes iron's not the scary part would be the fishing line and whether or not, because if you did do this and the fishing line wasn't able to actually like cut around the silicone, not the silicon, the silicone, then or broke multiple times because you heated it up too much, then you would have to buy a thermal grizzly D-lid mate. So yeah, it's scary. What up, man? AMD 9000G, it's an APU. So basically a CPU with a built-in graphics card. And it's going to be probably a monster lineup for the G series. If you don't know about their 8000G with the Zen 4 architecture and RDNA 3.5, for overclocking, the 8700G was an absolute monster of a CPU to overclock, and the performance was absolutely insane when you actually paired it with a GPU. Like, it was an absolute monster of a CPU. Monster. And like put it on dry ice or liquid nitrogen. Like I said, when I say monster of an overclocker, I ain't joking about that. It's an absolute beast. For something that's not the most expensive, it gave a lot of overclocking headroom and it was very efficient with its overclock. It scaled very well. Let's just say that it's scaled very well. Feel like I can go back over the little bit of news. It wasn't a whole lot on that, unfortunately. So right now we're going over the 9950X3D, and a guy delidded it with fishing line and clothes iron. Zen 4, the 9000G, they're expected to be using Zen 5 RDNA 4. And this will be at the end of this year. We'll see. We'll see. It could go into next year, the first quarter of next year, like kind of like with their Medusa lineup. So we'll have to see about that. But it's gonna be Zen 5. The 8000Gs are Zen 4, RDNA 3.5. You have a 9800X3D, great CPU. It is a beast for gaming. The AMD Ryzen 9 9950X3 is a highly desirable gaming and productivity processor. Yeah, of course. I mean, the price of it too is absolutely insane. It is pretty expensive. It is a beast though with 16 core and 32 thread, which is my approval for if you're going to be doing gaming and content creating on a single PC. You're going to want at least 16 core, 32 thread CPU of some sort. And since they made a 9950X3D, 16 core, 32 thread with the V-cache, it's of course a 100% recommended CPU on my end. Put off by the cost and weight involved with an acquired proper deleting hardware. User boss says they did the close iron fishing string method. Scary. I have a 9900X3D and love it. Very nice. What kind of frames you're looking at with what GPU? Where the writer specified that Seeger 15-pound. How do you actually put the actual fishing line dimensions and actual like weight certified? So Seeger 15-pound 0.11 diameter fishing line was chosen, which didn't snap once, and that was what I was kind of afraid of. Is it gonna snap? As if it snaps while you're delidding it, Like you got to be able to do this pretty quick too. You got a 4070 Ti Super, very nice GPU, 350 frames per second at 4K. In I don't know what that is, buddy. I don't know what that is. AMS2. What is AMS2? I am not a hardcore gamer. I am a gamer. I do FPS games though, except for Marvel Rivals, the new game now that's third person. But yeah, that's I don't know what AMS2 is. Ultra. Sorry. We're more familiar with DIYers using dental floss for this purpose, and dental floss would technically work. It's very strong because it has a wax, so that way it would actually go through the silicone a lot easier. The Redditor provided some further insights into the personal delidding experience, which was apparently the first ever delid for a CPU. First ever delid for a CPU, and they use this method. Absolute boss. His name is perfect. User boss. His name is perfect. He's an absolute boss. Ballista 2 racing sim like Gran Turismo. Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's a lot of frames for 4K too, though. I have no idea. I just built it. When I tried to start it up, it would let me push F1 to go into setup. So I ordered a different keyboard, hoping it was just that. Yeah. There's a lot of issues with keyboards not working. That's why I have about 6 different keyboards. I'm an overclocker. I do overclocking. I am one of the top 100 overclockers in the world. For Canada, I am top 5. I'm in 4th place for overclocking in Canada. For career, I'm in 10th place. But last year I was 1st place in my league, so that's the main thing. But yeah, when you're doing overclocking on a whole bunch of different platforms, F1 or delete key does not work, which really sucks because then you have to go around trying to figure out what motherboard will actually work with it. I find I reviewed this. This Red Dragon keyboard right here actually works pretty good. So it's like a newer keyboard, but for some reason it works for all these older platforms as well. Except for one, which I have to bring out my old black web keyboard, which is a membrane keyboard. It's not even a good one. Oh, thank you very much, man. I've gotten about almost 50 subs in the past couple of days, so I'm quite happy about that. Again, thank you very much for that, and thank you for tuning in. The process began by using the fishing line to cut through the adhesive between the Octopus IHS legs and the chip substrate. Yeah, the Octopus IHS. So we'll go right here. This is what they call the Octopus substrate. That's what he's talking about there. Cutting through the silicon that is holding down the actual CPU to the actual die, or the IHS to the actual CPU die. You have a Red Dragon and love it. G keys were a must, and 70 Beavers was nice. I'm sorry, I'm not a keyboard guy. I don't know what you're talking about, man. You're blowing my mind. Yeah, I'm not a keyboard person. I just have keyboards and use them. I do like the mechanical keys, though. After switching to the mechanical keys, awesome. They're very sensitive, which I like. I think these have like a almost like a cherry red on them. I think they are. But yeah, I don't know much about keyboards. I reviewed it because it's a cheap keyboard and I needed some content. All right, next off, then it was time to wield the clothes iron. That's scary that he used a clothes iron, but I mean, if it works, it works. G keys are for our ARPGs like Diablo and Grim. Oh, gotcha. Like almost like a macro key, right? So that way you can just put whatever you want and then click on that and it does it. I think that's what you're talking about. If not, then teach me. I like to learn. To heat up the IHS and melt the solder, AMD uses to stick this metal to the chip beneath. Stim, so soldering the IHS to the actual silicon layer to help thermal transfer from the die to the IHS. That is what they're using. And it's generally like some really soft metals, basically. Soft solder. It's a soft solder. It's not like a high-end hard solder. It's a softer solder. It takes like 125 to 135 degrees Celsius to liquefy it. Hold an iron on the processor for 2 to 3 seconds, about 5 to 7 times, resulting in IHS easily sliding off. Wow, that's pretty quick, actually. Lastly, liquid metal is used to remove most of the remaining indium. Very, very, very smart. Indium is part of the solder that they use. Indium has a very low melting point, and using liquid metal, which is part indium or is heavily based on indium, can help get rid of the indium. Exactly. Okay. So I got it right. Yeah, I don't use any G keys or macro keys. I just use it how it is, basically for whatever game I'm playing. Never used a macro or anything like that. Especially some games like CS2 and that, using macros of some sort are bannable. So when you're trying to be top dog in the game, at least I was pretty close to top dog a couple of years ago. The overclocking enthusiast did actually have some thermal grizzly gear to hand for next steps. They employed a TG direct die frame to correctly join the exposed silicon with a custom loop CPU cooling system. Very nice. Yeah, you're gonna need a direct die frame. If you're gonna delid your CPU and do direct die cooling, at least you're gonna need a direct die frame. That's it. I thought there would have been more on that. Ooh, we definitely have to go over this. I went over this before. You're more of a pure game? Gotcha. Okay. So again, I am a hardcore overclocker. I'm an overclocker. Um, yeah, so this is Tom's Hardware again. This is, Elmore Labs and Skater Bencher made this or designed this, and they used a laser machine to create this. It's a $10,000 CPU pot for liquid nitrogen and liquid helium. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful how they did this. So doing extreme overclocking, you're going to need a CPU, GPU pot, or RAM pot, and having better surface area inside the pot can help cool it down quicker. And let's say you have a really high powerful CPU that you're overclocking, it can use like 1,000+ watts depending on the CPU. You're gonna want a quick wicking for the thermal transfer rate. So having a higher thermal or higher surface area is a lot better. I wonder what the Alpha Cool C1 would do with the lid. Not sure. I do custom water loops. I use custom water loops and I chill my loops. I do want to get into doing dry ice so that way I can stay in my league. Again, last year I was number one in my league, apprentice league, and you can go up to using dry ice. It's either chilled water or dry ice. I chilled my water. I use a certain mix that I can at least chill my water down to negative 40 degrees Celsius without it hardening up and destroying your equipment. But yeah, I do chilled water basically, but would like to do dry ice because it can go to over negative 60 degrees Celsius. And I get to stay in my league. And apprentice league is not like the bottom tier league. It's up there, just before liquid nitrogen. C1 is considered the best CPU block. No, no, the best CPU block would be the Optimus. Give me 1 second here. I'll show you what it is, and it is great. And it's their signature V3. currently unavailable, so that's kind of odd. Give me one sec. We go to, but why won't allow me open this page on Discord or OBS? Come on. No. No. Why won't it work? Guess we have to do it this way. Boom. Right here. Sorry about that. It took a little bit. But that right there, that is the best CPU block for custom water loops. It is the Optimus Signature V3, and it's an absolute monster. A Discord member, a viewer, subscriber, and donator of mine has built a PC. I'm going to be overclocking it here in the future. He just recently moved and has to put his get a setup all set up again. But I will be overclocking his PC. It is a 9950X3D. He's got multiple kits of RAM. We're going to overclock his kits of RAM that he got. And yeah, he got this because it is the best CPU block there is. You can see many reviews on it, and it really is the best CPU block. Against Optimus's older CPU blocks, which Optimus still makes the best CPU blocks. EK makes some really good CPU blocks as well. But this right here, you can see at least a 2 to 5 degrees Celsius drop in temperature just by using that CPU block right there. Yeah, we'll go back to this page because it's amazing. Anything good is never in stock. Yeah, very true, man. Yeah, it's very true. You can see things that work very well just sell very well as well. The reviews on it are insane. Okay, so Jesus Maximus Z890 Apex motherboard. The Apex motherboards are really good motherboards for RAM overclocking because they are too dim. Any too dim motherboards you can overclock very well on. And these Asus Maximus Z Apex boards right here, so these Z890 Apex boards, they're selling cheaper than the Z690s and Z790s, as people aren't really buying the Ultra 9285K. The Ultra 9285K is still a good CPU, but for a lot of people, it's not really the CPU of choice. The CPU of choice is like a lot of my viewers, Nvidia 100X3D. Those CPUs are just great for gaming. If you're doing editing or use your PC for some sort of workstation, I do recommend still the 13900K, 14900K, even the Ultra 9285K, but you don't have the hyper threading. There's no hyper threading on it, which kind of lowers its productivity for workstations. So it's a CPU that works really good for RAM overclocking though. So if you're trying to be an overclocker, it's amazing. Yeah, deleting the CPU is crazy. I delete them all the time. Old CPUs, old Xeons that are stemmed together. So IHS is liquid metal to or soldered to the silicon. So those are the hardest ones to delid, but you can also get older CPUs such as like the i7 3770K. They're fairly simple. You just put them in a vise or just cut around the the silicone. You just cut around the silicone on the IHS to the actual CPU, and it just pops right off. Basically, very, very easy to take off and thermal paste, because that's what they used back in the days. Thermal paste, one of the first CPUs that were done. So first consumer CPUs was the i9 9900K. That was one of the first consumer CPUs that was actually soldered IHS. But again, you can get, I thought I had some right here. So like these Xeons here are soldered. So these are soldered IHSs, these Xeons, and they're about 15-year-old CPUs, and they are soldered, but they are Xeons. They're not a consumer base. This X5570 was about 1,500 to 16. This right here was about $1,600 Canadian to buy back in the day. So yeah, they were soldered though, because it's just better thermal transfer. And server stations and work data centers wanted that. So yeah, this guy uses Z890 Apex motherboard. Again, this is Elmore Labs Skater Bench. So they designed this here. They also have a video over on their web or their YouTube page if you want to check that out. It's got like 1.2 million views now. Use PTM. I see now why people don't use it. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah, exactly. It's why I don't recommend PTM. It's great. It works great. It's just not fun to clean up. It's you have to ever redo it, or if you take apart your motherboard and that to clean it up once in a while, redoing it and cleaning it up, it's a pain. It's an absolute pain. So yeah, they use the Ultra 925K, pushing it all the way up to 7.44 gigahertz, which is really good for the CPU. To get one of these CPUs, so they would buy something like 50 to 100 of these CPUs, and maybe 8 to 10 CPUs out of 100 would be able to go down to negative 150 degrees Celsius or below. They're not a easy chip to find that will actually allow them to hit those kind of temperatures, those extreme temperatures, which you really needed to get those temperatures to get this kind of frequency out of the CPU. And they achieved a 12,066 megatransfers per second on the overclock. That's not the record now. One of my team members actually has this record now, which is absolutely amazing. We can go over some of the records if you want to see them too, but 12,066 megatransfers per second it's pretty quick. Well, you never have to redo it. It lasts forever. They say it lasts forever, but I mean, it's gotta wear out, in my opinion. It still has to wear out. I don't think they have a 10-year test done or a 5-year test done. They only have a couple of years, or not even a couple of years. They may only have a 1-year test done on it. At least I hadn't seen any tests that are over a year long. So applying is a pain because you have to keep it cold or it just turns to mush. Good thing I live in Canada where it's always cold. Yeah, they use liquid nitrogen, except for, look, it's so sexy. It's so sexy. $10,000 CPU cooler right there. $10,000. Yeah, it doesn't actually cost 10,000. It costs 10,000 to make after, because again, they used a special laser machine to laser weld copper together. Yeah, it depends on where you live. This year, the coldest temp we saw was about almost negative 30. Negative 30 Celsius. Yeah, they use an industrial application that basically lasts for the life of the machine. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. But what is the life of the machine? Life of the machine or life of the span of how long they're actually going to be using it? Because they're always upgrading. So every year, every maybe 2 years. Where is Saskatchewan? No, I'm Ontario, but unfortunately, I'm Ontario. I am Ontario. It's fairly cold here. For about 2 weeks, it was negative 23, 25. Pretty chilly. I was able to get my custom water loop nice and chilly. Got some older live streams on it. Something like 10,000 cycles for 20 hours per cycle. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of cycles. Not North Bay. I would say not too far from the Big TO, to be honest. Not too far from Big TO. Still a few hours away. I'm trying not to give my location. But yeah, I've been to North Bay and I've been to Timmins. I've been all around Ontario, or really have been all around Ontario. for work. Yeah, Toronto doesn't get that cold. It's just too dense of a population, and it's a lot warmer in Toronto. But for where I am, it gets fairly chilly throughout the winters. This LN2 cooler, liquid nitrogen. It's made by Honeywell. Thermal Grizzly is a reliable source for it, though. Ah, I gotcha. Is it beside a lake? Shoot, yeah, it is beside a lake. I don't know what lake it is, though. How about Lake Ontario? Does that work for you? Not too far from Lake Ontario. Toronto is beside a lake. That is why. Yeah, yeah. Well, we're beside a lake too, but we don't get that draft off of it. What really impressed me was that it performs on par with liquid metal. It does not perform on par with liquid metal, but it does. Its thermal compound and wicking away works really well. There are applications for liquid metal. It's not my recommended for using liquid metal. Again, I'm an overclocker. Liquid metal, you don't use liquid metal when doing extreme overclocking, due to the fact liquid metal only really performs at about 10 degrees Celsius and up. If you go below that, it does not like that. It does not like going below 10 degrees Celsius. Lake Ontario has not frozen over for 10 years. What are you talking about? Yeah, it has. Okay, I guess. Okay. I guess some parts, and you can still walk out onto Lake Ontario throughout the winter. I go ice fishing all the time, so it does get thin in some spots. One year we were sinking a bit. I mean, we had water where we were sitting, and we did have to move in a bit, drill some new holes and move in a bit, but makes things fun. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it does. All in Toronto. Okay, yeah, very true, true, true. I'm not again. I'm a bit farther away from Toronto, so I'm not sure about that part. But yeah, I do ice fishing. Yeah, we can just walk out. We can drive out on trucks and stuff onto Lake Ontario. I have an ice fishing tent that I live in for 2 years in North Carolina. Holy moly! Look at you, little boss. Custom generative AI model and tested with 14th gen Intel chips prior to being adopted for this Arrow Lake S overclocking run. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, LM2 is very notorious, fickle, and fragile process. It could be pretty finicky. You gotta cool certain CPUs down slow. You gotta cool down certain CPUs fast. Some CPUs don't like going too cold. Lake Ontario is huge. I mean, when all the Great Lakes used to, yeah, very true, very true. And yeah, Lake Ontario is huge. Optimized solutions like this can allow the system to run more stable for longer periods and thus be pushed yet um, more stable for not having to use as much voltage for frequency. And that helps in play just with because as let's say things start heating up, electricity gets very all wavy and very unstable. Cooling it down can make it more stable of a voltage, and yeah, it helps keep things a lot more stable that way. Yeah, NTH2. I have some XTM70 to try. What's that? What is that? Do they have the video over here, or do I have to go to YouTube for it? And I guess we can go to this one because I like this overclocked. Again, this is over on Elmore Labs, or is this the new record? New record. This is the new record by Wittix. Wittix got the new record. Yeah, eBay notification. Let's go. eBay. I don't care about that. Yeah, 9.12. The last record was 9.1, and that was by Elmore Labs. Wittix just beat their record, but Elmore Labs will be coming out and probably beating this. So Elmore Labs, Skater Bencher, Elmore Labs, Elmore Labs also with Thermal Grizzly on it, but Elmore Labs and Skater Bencher, and also a couple other people did this. I'm not sure if Benchmark did or not, but yeah, right here, Elmore Labs, 9 gigahertz, 9.12 gigahertz. And they did it on the 14900K, and it's probably the only, or 14900K or KF. KF, they did it on the KF on this one. Elmore Labs used the KS. I do like the KF models. They don't have the built-in graphics, but the KFs are amazing for overclocking, in my opinion. Are they trying to build a CPU or a pulse engine? Yeah. Oh, Corsair's newest paste. That's what it is. Oh, I have to try that out. I do have to make or get some thermal paste and do a comparison video on thermal pastes. Where's my? There it is. So thermal grizz. That's I was using some MX4. So here, so this is MX4. This is from donators, helped provide me the chance to be able to get some of this here. MX4 thermal compound. It's good for negative 50 degrees Celsius up to whatever CPU is recommended for temperature. So this stuff works actually pretty good in my opinion, especially since a 45 gram tube only costs about $30 to $35 on Amazon, Canadian. And Thermal Grizzly. Thermal Grizzly is probably one of my most favorite. I do have to get some Kingpin as well. But Thermal Grizzly Canadian, it's like $130 Canadian for 30 grams. So big difference there. Big difference there. But I also make my own thermal compound with diamond and dust. But yeah, I have to get a bunch of thermal paste and do a comparison video. Probably used Amazon's cheapest CPU water block. If you've not checked out that video, you probably should. But yeah, it works pretty good. I was pretty happy with the Amazon's cheapest CPU water block. Works pretty good. I might use that. Or I might use my daily PC with its custom monoblock, which it has an EK custom monoblock. So it cools the motherboard and CPU. But I kind of want it just to cool the CPU. So that way I get a more of a better comparison because it's actually just cooling the CPU. I'm going to send some NTH2. They're from Noctua. Oh, and that's Noctua's thermal paste. I'm sure it would be expensive, but I'm surprised I've never seen anything with copper in it. Because a lot of CPU pastes, you don't want conductivity as an electrical conductivity. And copper isn't as thermal wicking as it holds the temperature. It's not the greatest for wicking. And you'd also have to somehow make sure that it doesn't bind itself together. And copper is not the greatest, in my opinion. That's why they use graphite. So you got graphene pads. It is true. Still, liquid metal is different though because it's good for filling up the actual. What I'm talking about is if you use copper and let's say you push the thermal paste together onto from the cooler to the actual IHS, what will happen is the copper could fuse itself together. So it could actually like fuse itself together from the actual the cooler to the IHS and or scratch up the IHS, which would cause more issues in the long run. And it could get all like build up and make balls, and yeah, there'll be a lot of issues with copper because you also have to do copper dust, right? And then you have to find a copper dust that's mixes well. Yeah, there's so many things. Yeah, and liquid metal is not copper. True, liquid metal is a type of. It's not fully indium, but there's more compounds in liquid metal than most people think. It's not just one metal. It's gallium, right? It's gallium. It might have some indium in it, but it's gallium. It's a gallium based liquid metal is gallium based, but there'll be some indium in it. That's what a lot of people don't realize. There is some indium in the liquid metal. Yeah, and you gotta. So you know how like IHSs have like a convex shape, like it's has a bit of a circular motion to it. Us overclockers, we will lap and or flatten CPU IHSs so that way they're nice and flat. And then we also do the same to the cooler. Doesn't matter if it's like one of these liquid nitrogen pots or and what I like to do is my air coolers. I do my AIOs. Again, I do a lot of testing and my water loops. I'll lap the actual plates to make sure they're matching flat. So that way I can literally use zero thermal paste and it will still technically work. But yeah, if you did it from stock, whatever you're using, the cooler and the actual CPU, you're gonna overheat your CPU. But as long as you lap it and lap it, you can use very, very, very little thermal paste, or there'll be very little thermal paste when you unapply it. There'll be almost zero thermal paste that you see on the actual cooler and the IHS. Gallium was a other element in the first CPUs. Yeah, it'd be a gallium indium mix stem. Also, be a little bit tin in it as well. Yeah, I actually thought about ordering some dental paper to see how mine pressed on there. Yep. That's why I also have a video. I leave the actual, so when you get like a CPU cooler, you get that peel off of it. I'll leave that peel on. I'll literally leave that peel on, do a first press onto it. And then, when you're tightening it down and you think that's a good tight, uh, that's when you stop because, you think it's pretty good there, whatever your opinion is on the tightness. It does take a lot of pressure though. After doing that, you undo it and then you pull it off. What you want to see is like basically no thermal compound in between the IHS and the actual cooler. And once you know that that's a really good tightness down on the CPU cooler, you can take that off and do it for the final press. Sandpaper works really good. Also a lapping plate. So if you're kind of like me, you would use a lapping plate and then use a lapping lens to actually see how flat your IHS and cooler is. So that way you can get a lapped. A lapped is different than flattening. Flattening, it's fairly good. A lapped is near perfect flatness. But yeah, sandpaper works just fine. One sec. So generally what you are left with is, hopefully we can see this. Can we see this or no? See how that right there, the IHS is all copper now. This was an i7-3770K. I lapped the IHS on the top and back side, and I also lapped the CPU die. When CPU die, I don't recommend people doing. It is not easy. It is very not easy, and yeah, a lot of things go wrong. But generally, when you're lapping it or flattening down your IHS, you want to see all copper. Some of them you won't even see all copper when it's nice and flat. You might have a little bit of nickel plating left on it. I do have a couple CPUs where there's nickel plating left on it, and it's nice and flat. Yeah, micro tolerances. Yep. You're talking about microwaves. Microwaves, yes. Yeah, micro tolerances can you could do it, you couldn't do it by hand, and you would definitely need special tools. Yeah, like a lapping plate and lapping lens and a micrometer to make sure that you can lap it, right? You can lap it nice and flat, right? But you might lap it on a slight angle. You don't want any angle. You want it flat all the way around. Nice thickness of IHS all the way around as well, so that when you put the cooler on, it's nice and flat and level. There's not a lot of people that do it. I can literally put a CPU cooler on that CPU there. I can literally put a CPU cooler on with no thermal compound, press down and do a little spin. It will cold weld itself onto the CPU cooler, and I can lift up the whole motherboard and that with the cooler. That's how tolerant I like to be. Yeah, it is very difficult. Yeah, and it takes a long time. It takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to lap a CPU die. And I do a lot of them. I do a lot of them. Again, I do have 12 records now, 7 second place, 12 third place, and I do believe over 30 top 5 now for the hardware that I've overclocked. Trying to be a top overclocker, so overclocking like almost every CPU, every motherboard, every RAM kit that I can, and every GPU. I hold the most records on my 3070 Ti, which is a Zotac amp hollow. I binned them, so I bought a lot of them. I bought a lot of them, took the best one and modified it and got the best scores with that. I'm trying to. I used to build computers all the time. I've like built computers for family members and that. Did overclocking on family members' PCs too, so that way they had better performance. Upgraded their components, but I haven't really built computers. I'm trying to. I just put out a post 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now for PC building. I got a couple of response, but not, it's not the greatest. Yeah, just need to get in contact. Exactly. I've gotten a lot of reviews and that too, but I do sell PC hardware like the Xeons. I do sell Xeons on eBay, or at least used to. Waiting for prices to go back down for shipping. Shipping's crazy, but I got 100% review on all my stuff because I say exactly what it is, how perfect of a condition it is. Like everything I sell on there is like every picture is of the exact component. I don't put on fake pictures like a lot of people. But yep. I've been trying to get my name out there to build people's PCs if they want. Exactly, and they are too expensive in Canada. They really are. That's why it's not easy to be a PC builder. I can do it. I can do custom water loops, hard line, soft line. I can do whatever, air cooling, whatever people want, but the parts of it are too expensive unless you are like me and constantly looking on Amazon for deals. Like Amazon had a deal for the 13900K. They had a 65% off. I got my 13900K brand new, like brand spanking new, for cheaper than my 12600K. For just over $200, I got my 13900K. For one of my D5 pump reservoir combos, it's almost a $500 D5 res combo. I got it for $65 off Amazon. That's why I look for these kind of deals, because again, I do overclocking and I kind of want my daily system be on a custom water loop, and I wanted another water loop for overclocking on. True. That's why I put my name up there and show them PCs I've built in the past. If you're not part of the Discord channel, you should definitely take a look at that. Do got some people out there that have a lot of money and spent a lot of money. Again, one of my viewers, subscribers, and donators, I'm gonna be overclocking one of his systems. I've helped him overclock his systems, his 13900K and his 14900K system. But yeah, we go through a lot of things on Discord as well, and you can see some pictures of PCs I've built in the past. Never know. My channel could take off. I could get people that actually want me to build them systems. I don't care about the price and shipping costs, because shipping cost out here it's insane, man. If I use UPS to ship a box like this big by this big, it's near $200. Like $200 to ship a small box. Yeah, Amazon does have some crazy deals. Black Friday, yep, is one of the best times. I've been doing YouTube shorts. I'm not the greatest at YouTube shorts. I really am not the greatest at YouTube shorts, but I've been making some and trying to do some more YouTube shorts again. My YouTube shorts only get like 500 to 600 views though, when my videos get thousands or 1,000, at least 1,000 within a week. My YouTube shorts don't. I've had YouTube shorts out there for over half a year and they've only hit like 700 views. Not the greatest. Exactly. Then add the weight, and if there's certain weight, then they start doing a premium over 20 pounds, I think it is, which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane, man. But I use eBay for my selling, and since 100% review, I actually get a 20% discount on my shipping. And that's still $200. It's still like for a box like this, it's still $200 on UPS. That's why I generally just use Canada Post. Used to be. FedEx used to be good. Now it's just brutal. For one of the things I sold in the past, I think the shipping was like $260 using FedEx Ground. 260, and that's after my 20% discount. Brutal. And that's the time we live in, though. Hooray! With a core voltage of 1.387 volts, and likely under liquid nitrogen, it would have to be under liquid nitrogen or liquid helium of some sort to be using these kind of voltages and reaching these kind of frequencies. They did not use 1.387 volts. They used 1.67 or almost 1.7 volts to get this frequency. So this is a lie. Yeah, absolutely. Most of your profit. Yeah, a lot. Yep. 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 I sold a GPU about 3 months ago. So I sold an older GPU, an older ATI GPU. The customer was very happy when he received it. Very happy. He gave me a nice review on that. It cost me on, because I was going to do FedEx. I was going to do FedEx or UPS. It was like $240, $260. I was like, no way. The guy said he would have paid it for an older GPU that cost $40. He would have paid it. I was like, no, do you mind waiting? I have I can give you it for a lot cheaper if you want to wait. And this is here in Canada. I wasn't shipping anywhere else. I was shipping here in Canada. I was still in Canada. I was like, if you want to wait, I could do Canada Post. Just wait till after the strike and we'll use Canada Post. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So Canada Post it was. And Canada Post cost me $26 in shipping. So a lot better. A lot better. I only made $5. I made $5 off of selling it. And I didn't want to sell it, but I had to. Yeah, I made $5. The guy said he would have paid the shipping, whatever the shipping cost. Like, no, I'm not gonna get you to pay $260 for shipping. I don't know, way, man. Something that costs like 40, I think it was $46, $47 after. Yeah, it's costly, but yeah, it's not insane. Canada Post with the tracking's awesome. Again, I do get a 20% discount with eBay, so it doesn't cost as much. Intel said we'd have 10 gigahertz CPUs by 2005. Yeah, no, definitely not. It's 5090 Dragon. Should check out HardwareBot. Show you the actual RAM overclocking frequency. 12,166, I think it is now. I've turned down the polling rate of the sensors in RTSS AMD. Those values are updating way too fast and alone will just leave on documents over to 2000. No, of course I did turn down the polling rate. Of course I did the polling rate, turn it down. I'm just checking out another comment on a video for my Marvel Rivals 1080 Ti for the polling rate he was talking about for using RTSS or Rivet Tuners hardware monitoring. I did to 100 every 100 milliseconds, not every 1,000, 2,000. I like to have the fastest polling rate. I used to run Vega 64 Crossfire. It was great. Yeah, Vega 64 is really nice. It's like their Furies. The R9 Furies. They were actually beasts for the time. They were beasts. They ran pretty hot. But they were beasts. I'm still working on trying to get another AM3 Plus motherboard so I can overclock some older FX Bulldozer series CPUs. Dang, they're fun to overclock. Absolute monsters for frequency. They're not great CPUs by any means, but they're fun to overclock. Very hot too. Oh, my motherboard here. Yep. If we can see that. Damn. Completely burnt the traces through the motherboard. Overclocking an FX 8150 on air. Poor motherboard, rest in peace. Now just use it for stealing components, SMTs off of it. SMTs. Yeah, completely through the board. The traces completely melted. The bundle of the board was blue. Now it's like a green. There is some black, but that's because I was desoldering some capacitors to use on GPUs for overclocking. Adding more capacitors on GPUs can help stabilize things. You have a 99FX Sabertooth if you are interested. That's a great motherboard for actually overclocking. Use some 2133 megahertz RAM. I don't really care about different kinds of RAM in my opinion. In my opinion, those kind of RAMs don't really matter, but maybe. I have to think about that. Yeah, because I got tons of RAM. I have tons of DDR3 RAM kits. Just cheap kits that I can overclock past 2133 anyways. I mean, I am using like 1.9 plus volts on when I do my overclocking on DDR3. I'm generally using 1.9 plus volts. So you got to know that doing these kind of overclockings on hard extreme overclocking is brutal. Depending on what the price is, because the 99FX Sabertooths are not cheap motherboards by any means. At least AM3 Plus motherboards are not cheap, and that's a good motherboard. I think they still sell for over a couple $100 still.